Today's notes have to do with absolute value. Essential questions are, what does absolute value mean? And how do you find absolute value? So our first definition is absolute value. This tells you the distance a number is from 0. And from previous notes, you need to always remember that distance is always going to be positive. An absolute value symbol looks like this. And you're going to have a number in there, okay? So that's the symbol. This is not an 11. When there's a number inside the symbol, you just have to say how far that number is from 0, and that's the answer. So you can picture a number line in your head, and picture where -2 is on the number line, and then count how many units -2 is away from 0. So the absolute value of -2 is just 2. It's 2 units away from 0. Absolute value of 6, how far is 6 away from 0 on a number line? It's 6 units. Absolute value of -5 is going to be 5. The absolute value of -1,000 is 1,000. The absolute value of 2,000 is 2,000. It's 2,000 units away from 0. And it doesn't just have to be integers. We can also find the absolute value of fractions and decimals. So the absolute value of 1/2 is 1/2. The absolute value of -75 hundredths is 75 hundredths. It's 75 hundredths of a unit away from 0. Alright, sometimes you'll have operations in here, okay? And when you have operations in there, you want to do what's inside of it, and then find the absolute value. So when I see -3 plus 2, that's -1, so this is really the absolute value of -1. And the absolute value of -1 is 1, because it's 1 unit away from 0. Okay? I have 5 minus 10 right here, so it's really the absolute value of 5 minus 10 is -5. So the absolute value of -5, the absolute value of -5 is 5. It's 5 units away from 0. Okay, and sometimes it gets a little bit complex in there, but just figure out what's going on inside the absolute value sign and then go from there. I see I have additive inverses here. -1/2 plus 1/2, that's 0. 0 plus 6, we're really finding the absolute value of 6. And the absolute value of 6 is 6 because it's 6 units away from 0. Okay, on number 11, we have the absolute value of -6 minus 2 plus 10. So when I start off with this, I'm going to start with -6 minus 2, which is -8. And then I just add 10 to that. So we have -8 plus 10, which is 2. So this is really the absolute value of 2. And the absolute value of 2 is 2, because 2 is 2 units away from 0. Okay, right here, I see that I can group a -9 plus a -1. -9 plus a -1 is -10. So -10 plus 10, those are additive inverses. -10 plus 10 is 0. So I'm really finding the absolute value of 0. How far is 0 away from itself? It's 0 units away from itself. Okay, right here I have 20 minus 40 minus 10. I can group this easily for me. I can go 20 minus 10. 20 minus 10 is 10. And then 10 minus 40 is -30. So we're trying to find the absolute value of -30. -30 is 30 units away from 0, so the absolute value of this is 30. Okay, so right here I have -5/10 plus 1 plus 3. I'm going to go 1 plus 3, and that's 4. 4 minus 1/2 is 3 1/2, or 3 5/10, so it's absolute value of 3 5/10. The absolute value of 3 5/10 is 3 5/10. Alright, now we have some weird cases, and these are the answers to these weird cases. So if you have something like this where you have the absolute value of 9, but there's a negative outside of it, you would do this first. The absolute value of 9 is 9, and then put the negative in front of it. Okay? So that answer is negative 9. I know up here all these answers are positive, but you see how it's got that weird case of the negative in front of it. Okay, these don't have the negative in front of it. Okay, another weird case is this right here. Okay, the absolute value of negative 9 is 9, but again, you have that negative in front of it, so your answer would be negative 9. Okay? So why do you suppose the answers to these weird cases are negative? And I'm going to go ahead and provide a sentence starter for you, and I want you to finish this up. Okay? So the answer to the negative absolute value of 9 is negative 9. That's the answer. Because, and I want you to finish that sentence right there. And then I'll provide a sentence starter for the second answer right here. The answer to the negative absolute value of negative 9, the answer is negative 9 because, and go ahead and finish up that sentence right there. Okay, bye.